welcome to my studio. I love my penthouse studio. I'm on the second floor and I've got two panoramic windows. I've got all the props from my past when I taught art seriously to advanced fine art certificate students, and I also am doing some fun work. I've invested for my 75th year is coming up very soon, and I'll be celebrating by putting in my ink studio. At the moment I've got an oil painting studio here, the soft pastel studio, the watercolours. I used to have a pottery sculpture studio, but I've downsized from that. So now I'm going into some things that are more accessible to everybody, the pen and ink. And I just did a video showing you how to create social memes. So it's not all about fine art. As I was saying before, somebody knocked on the door to deliver my cup of tea, because I am in aged care. I'm in assisted living. It is not all about fine art, and my last video was to show you how to create memes, social media memes, using art, something easier. And a Bachelor of Fine Arts with Honours YouTuber gave me some constructive advice that was not how to earn my living. Well, I earned my living as a professional artist for about 65 years, which is why I'm here trying to help you in varied ways. You're welcome to ask questions and I will strive to answer them in the next video, or soon after, or in the comments. So I am here to try to help you. I'm not here to try to earn a living now. My husband is about to turn 80. That's his birthday present. So here's my priority, in not earning a living in art. And I spend my evenings here trying to do constructive stuff to help you. I used to take Bachelor of Fine Arts students and give them work experience and pay them an income to help them with their training in Bachelor of Fine Arts, and my report on their work was a huge percentage, about 40% I think, of their final mark. And well, they were lovely students and they all had manners. You never critique somebody unless you're asked for critique. That's why I stay in a lot of wonderful Facebook groups where people are being constructive and praising people's works. I like to pop in occasionally and I see something and I'll add some praise. Even when you see some work that you don't necessarily like the style of, you can say, I admire your enthusiasm. I've done that before. There's no need to give negative comment unless you are asked for a constructive critique. And even then, you can give it positively. But no, I'm not here to earn a living. By sitting in the background in some groups and listening to what people say, I discovered a lot of beginners. There's a lot of stuff that we take for granted, us professional artists or more experienced painters, that beginners just don't know. For instance, many of you want to have your sketchbooks in smaller, more comfortable to handle sizes, but they can be costly if you get quality paper. All the sketchbooks don't necessarily have the quality watercolour paper that you might want. You can get the huge A1 sheets of paper and whoops, there we go. By sitting in Facebook groups and listening to what beginners have to say and their questions, a common problem comes up, and many of you are buying sketchbooks in small, convenient sizes. This book, I used to sell this when I had an art supply shop as part of my Buninyong gallery. They were $5, and that's the sort of price that many of you can afford to pay. And they don't contain high quality paper. Even if you buy watercolour sketchbooks, the watercolour paper is usually inferior to what it would be if you were to buy a full size sheet, an A1 size sheet of watercolour paper. You could get a quality sheet for probably not much more than you're paying for a sketchbook of poorer quality. And if you fold that in half, you have an A2 size, and if you fold that in half again, you've got the A3 size, half again, and you've got the A4 size. And we know this, I know this, but there's a lot of people who just don't know. And if you fold the A4 you get the A5 size. So if you buy the one full-size sheet of paper, and you can often get them as packs of 5 of these full imperial sheet sizes, you can fold those up and you can get so many sheets of the size that you're wanting at a much more affordable price for quality, and a better quality than you can get in a block of watercolour paper that size. So they're things that can help you. And other things that might take for granted. I've had known people that have bought these pads of watercolour paper in blocks, and they don't understand that these are stuck together. They're not loose. If you work around it, you will usually find one corner where the paper's loose. What you do is you get a knife or a paper opener and you slide it under there, and you very, very carefully lever that off. And there's actually no information whatsoever on the block that tells you that. So unless you are going to classes where somebody's showing you those things, you don't know. So simple to me, perhaps, but there are beginners out there who just don't know that. Art gum rubbers, wonderful for rubbing out pencil line. The easiest to rub out pencil line will be your harder pencils. If you get into the very soft pencils like your 6Bs and your 8Bs, they tend to smudge, and you're going to need something like a kneadable eraser to lift the smudgy pencil mark off. But if you're using a harder pencil, you get it off with an art gum rubber. If you don't have an art gum rubber, then a piece of fresh, yeasty white bread will do exactly the same thing. It'll also work as a kneadable eraser if you scrunch it all up until it's just a moist, sticky bit of thickened bread, and then just dop in and lift off. So your fresh slice of bread will do a wonderful job of cleaning up your paper if you don't have these artist tools. Ask questions. I've 65 years of professional painting. There's not a great deal about the main traditional mediums that I don't know. So use my experience. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to earn my living. Please don't scold me if I decide to do something for fun. Now, I have full praise for YouTubers like Brenda from Pyrography Made Easy, and Dennis, and he has a channel, Dennis C. Nolasco, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, and he does brush pen work at the moment, but I noticed that the work is original. He's doing figurative work or landscape work, and I just have so much praise for artists who are referencing their own material. Now, some more tips for the artist, and I'm sure this would be more fun if I demonstrated than if I just talk to you, but I'm getting through it a lot faster and giving you more tips in the space of time this way. These things from nature, these found objects, they can make wonderful types of paintbrushes. If you are putting frisket down, whiteout, to white out the paper before you do a watercolour wash, something that will stop the paint staining the paper where you put that. It will also damage your brush. So wipe your brush in soap first, and then put the frisket on the brush so that you've got a better chance of washing all the frisket out of the brush. Or use found objects. The end of that can be something to dip into the frisket and wipe across the paper. So depending on the shape of what it is, the found object, you can go and get grasses. I'm trying to pull, there you are. There's like a feathery bit on the end of that protea. And so it's soft. It's very going to give a very brush-like effect. When I've been in the Aboriginal communities, with the painting groups, they will go and pick an edible plant, a reed or something, and they'll chew the end of this reed until the ends of it are feathery like a brush. So you'll have the stem of the reed, and then you'll have the brush end. Of course, check that that particular plant is edible before you do that. But again, that's a way of making your own brush when you're out in the bush. And of course, the other end can be used for dots, and the feathered end is used for painting. So look at nature. There's some wonderful things within nature that can become brushes. For goodness sake, if you're a big, bold impressionist, that whole head of that protea, it's all feathery. You could do some marvellous blending effects. So have fun with it. I must grab this one for you. Here we go. Look at that. I bought that from Rosemary & Co. Well, when I saw that I was getting a feather brush, honestly, I never expected something like that. And it was really quite affordable. It's going to be marvellous. They suggested that for use for doing clouds in watercolour. So Rosemary & Co., they're all handmade brushes. And I was quite impressed with that. I've not used it yet. It's a little bit gimmicky, perhaps. I think because I've painted for decades, it's unfamiliar to me. I think next time I do clouds, I'll probably do my normal techniques, but we'll demonstrate that for you sometime. We'll have fun. And I might even use it for blending the background of an oil painting. It's affordable, so if I wreck it in the oil paints, it should be right. Talking about wrecking in the oil paints, if you are, again, let's go for a hike here. Oh, I have so many paintbrushes. This is just a small portion of them. I've got thousands of dollars worth of oil paintbrushes. The thing is, I sold art supplies, and I never sold anything that I didn't know how to use and recommend and couldn't show somebody how to use. If you are painting oil paints regularly, and you put your paints away for a lengthy period of time, you might be changing to another medium for a while, you might be going on a holiday and taking a portable kit and leaving your main studio brushes behind. These brushes can go hard. So if you get a non-drying oil like neatswood oil is also used for conditioning leather goods, particularly saddles or things like that, and you leave these brushes laying on a slope, not down into the head. You know, you can buy one of those painter's trays, house painter's trays, where you can lay the brushes on an angle downward like that, so that they're not resting on the end of the tips of their ferrules, tips of their hairs, or pushing into the ferrules, and just keep that part of it in the non-drying oil while you're on holidays or taking that break from oil paint. You'll come back and find that your brush hairs are beautifully conditioned. So that's a way of protecting your brushes. You will find if you work daily with your oil painting brushes, like I did as a professional artist, your brushes will stay usually in beautiful condition. So they respond to use. Some tools are best used regularly. At the moment, I'm not using my oil painting brushes, I did say. My husband is 80. I know it's not popular on YouTube to not be young and sexy. Well, tough. I'm in an aged care home so that I can have help to look after my husband, and I spend all day with him. I spend about 12 hours with him. I have night staff will wake me up at 7 o'clock in the morning so that I can be there with my husband early, and I get in here about 8 o'clock at night usually, and that's my time to do my artwork. So it doesn't really allow me a lot of time to be doing these larger works of art. So I'm doing smaller works, and at the moment I'll try to do more frequent tips and demonstrations of products for you, things that I can do in an evening in my studio. So welcome to an evening in my studio, and if you think you'll benefit from it, or if you enjoy watching these, I would love it if you would subscribe, leave a comment to let me know that my work, what I'm doing here, is appreciated.